Alright, howdy folks. I have the game we played pretty recently as to do a little replay review with because one, I hope you can maybe learn something from it, and two, I'm bored. So here we go. Um, so um, I was playing my American deck, which I like. It's definitely my most comfortable. Really like it. Versatile, good for. It's pretty much all the tools I want. Um, Sean was playing his German deck, which is pretty. It's the first one he made. Um, Baker was playing a NORAD armored deck, which I think is he likes in general, but wasn't necessarily used to its full potential in this game. And Rob was playing a Scandinavian on spec deck. So we're on Punchbowl. Um, and it seems like the three of you had pretty like a three split lanes. So Rob's heading towards Echo Foxtrot, Baker's heading to Charlie, and then ideally Delta. Sean's heading to Bravo, and I'm all on my own, so I gotta cover everything. So it took me a little bit longer to deploy because I'm one dude. So I'll look at your guys's once it seems like you got everything sort of set up. We'll say, good job, Baker. This is a nice spot for CV. Hidden in the woods. It is sort of, unfortunately, with this alpha zone, it is sort of the obvious spot for the vehicle CVs. I'd say the alternative is getting like an infantry CV and putting it in the town, and it's really hard to kill those. But this is good. It's very unlikely to get killed in a lot of games. Um, yeah, let's see. Um, I'm going to hope that you guys have got everything set up. So first, let's look at Baker's starting. So you got two CVs. You got the home base and for Charlie. Makes sense because of the zones that you want to CV, you obviously got to CV your home base for your spawn. But you also, I would say the first priority for CVs are Delta and Charlie because they have more points. Get that you recognize that. Let's see. You got 3 squads of Rifleman 90, 2 squads of Eric's, 8-ats, Rifleman 90, and Bradley's, a Recon Bradley, Centurion Marksman, 8-ats, Rangers. This is pretty decent. I would say the fact that you're an armor deck and you're not starting out with any tanks, I think you may put one down to start, is not ideal. And also, with this map specifically, because the Charlie and Delta front line is so far away from spawns, you generally want air cav to get into these towns. Because just defensively, you want to get people into this town so that the other person can't get across, or you can be aggressive and try to get into the opposite side town. But in armor decks, you don't have that. But Rob, this is a pretty good balanced force. I think it's Gevarman and a Fallschirmjäger. CV for Echo. These are the RBS 56. Some tanks. Good AA mix. The Rover for helicopters. IHawk and the automatic for helicopters as well. IHawk for planes. You have, however, two CVs. So you have your truck and you have your infantry, and this it is pretty bold to assume that you're going to be able to take both sectors in the opener, particularly when you're spending 200 of your starting points, which is like 20% of your start, on commands. So I would say if somebody else on your team is already coming home and you're going to the right, you should basically only have one CV. With this map, there's only 6 zones. You're gonna have to start with 3 CVs automatically. That's probably all you need. Let's see. Additionally, your units are sort of not on the edge and not on the road. You do have generally your fighting units up front and your AA in the back, so that helps. But they should be like right in this crossroads, all clustered up, so you can get there as quick as possible. Additionally, your helicopters, you can start them out over these towns, so they start in the air. I would also say starting with a pair of helicopters, like these, the Fennec TOW 2s, that in pairs, these are like specialized AT helicopters. They're not usually that great in pair because they tend to waste missiles because they'll shoot at the same target if you like right click on it to specifically attack it. And because these have TOW 2s on them, unless it's like a super heavy tank, it's probably overkill if they both hit. So these are first better off solo. Second, these kind of helicopters, because they're so specialized, are not great for openers. So for Sean, bunch of infantry, and a mix of transports. I know you have Jaegers and Panzer Grenadiers. You have command infantry, which I got to start with the command anyways. AA, 2 Leopard 2 A4s is a pretty strong tank force, though you'd be better off having them individually so you can move them separately. And the Tiger 2 for the Germans is a very good starting out helicopter because it's got the very versatile weapon systems. But you're starting out way back here, and I think Baker pointed this out in game, but so he might change it as deployment goes on. But you want to start close as you can, and you can also start your Tiger over the town to get to start out flying and get there faster. So I'm gonna speed through to the end of deployment for me. Yeah, using the markers to say where you're going. Smart. Once we're through. Alright, I'm just going to check to see if you've changed anything. Same start. Oh, you did move your helicopters, so all that talking about it was wasted. I see Baker changed or added a Mexus and an M1A2. Great start for armor deck. Heavy, super heavy tanks, super hard to deal with, especially at veteran status and early in the game when you don't have a lot of points. And a medium tank to support it, so that's good. I think Sean added some recon, which is important to have, some ground recon. So on my side, I obviously have a lot to go through. So for Foxtrot, I have 2 DAPs, my anti-air helicopters, which my goal with them, I was afraid that whoever was coming here was going to have air cav and get into this town. But I figured, because I knew what decks you were playing, I figured that it would be very unlikely for there to be good anti-air helicopters against me. So my helicopters could kill your helicopters with the infantry, and then I can secure the town. Which is why I have a slower force. I have some riflemen and Humvees, 2 stacks of Marines and their vehicles, some LAVs to screen, and a Chaparral for ground AA. I also have a Patriot and a supply truck. I know I've said don't normally start with the supply trucks, but I had a lot of points to spend to go over here and provide anti-airplane cover. For the middle, I have sort of two force components. I also have another Patriot supply truck pack to cover the middle of the map. So my first force component is anti-air helicopters, 2 stacks of light riflemen and helicopters, and a ranger squad. And that's because I want to get into this town before anyone else, and get my light riflemen down so I can control all this open area around this town. So to the woods, to this town, and just make it so that anything in the open is not necessarily going to die because the Super Dragon doesn't have that high AP power, but will be harassed and you won't want to have stuff sitting there. My other component is a heavy ground component. So I got 2 stacks of riflemen and Bradleys, 2 M1A1 Abrams and an M1A2 Abrams, and also some extra AA. And this is because, again, this is open ground, so big heavy tanks, very important. And the Bradleys can provide their tows at long range to support my tanks in any tank battles, and I'm hoping that this is enough to at least fend off any tank attack, particularly with the Bradley support and the light riflemen. For Delta, I have a CV, another pack of 2 stacks of light riflemen and a ranger squad, and some DAPs, and then I have an Avenger, some LAVs, and then one A2. So again, the thought with this, I want air cav to get over into these towns quickly so that they can defend against them. I have the LAVs for killing light vehicles. I have the Avenger because it's fast AA and it's just hard to get stuff over here. And I have the M1A2 in anticipation of there being tanks over here that my light riflemen aren't going to be able to deal with. I also have a Nighthawk, which we'll see it, which I started out with. So I get moving on stuff. Everybody gets moving. Seems like fast moves are happening. So I'm gonna see. Alright. So the first engagement is going to be in the middle because there's this nice big road that runs down the middle, so it's very easy for the 2 starting forces to crash into each other. Because the wheeled vehicles with the infantry in it are wheeled, they go faster on roads. They're all out front. And the heavier stuff, namely the Martyr 2s and the Leopard 2A4, are behind. With this map, it is very... Bravo is very blue side, like Gulf side favored. Because this town is oriented towards Gulf side. And I have the town and woods here, whereas the Alpha side only has this town and this woods, and there's all this open space, which, like, this town and this tree line can be useful, but it's not in the zone. So it is much easier to control it. Additionally, because it's about equidistant, it is very hard to, like, get a advantage in positioning from the Alpha side. You're not going to beat, even with helicopters, you're not going to beat somebody on the blue side to this town if they start out in the game. And you're not going to beat to this person to this town without helicopters. Really, your goal would be get some stuff into this town, get some stuff into this forest, maybe get some coverage into here, and really your main avenue of attack through the middle from the Alpha side is probably going to be towards this forest and this road, trying to get an encirclement and cut off Bravo reinforcements, and then you can take the town. So once you see these helicopters, and it's quite a lot, you can assume that there's forces behind and that you're not going to get. So, like, these should all be turning off right now. I bring in my Nighthawk. This is a pretty cruel thing to do. But I see stuff on the road. And bomb it because I'm fighting on 3 fronts. So down here, this was good. Oh, there's FSK at Fallschirmjäger. I was wrong about that. So this is good. Move the rovers up. That's forcing my helicopters back. And there's enough fire. There's enough coverage, particularly from these tanks. And the ATGMs, and also the FSK are really range to really hinder my infantry getting to this town. And Rob does a really good job of controlling this open area behind the town, so it becomes really hard for me to reinforce. But at this point, this is already a losing fight for me because not only is there a ton of good infantry here that I'm fighting with, there's also the fire support of vehicles and tanks, and I don't have any heavy tanks, any long-range AT, so I really can't deal with the fire support here. In the middle, I see the lever 2A4s. I see them getting used, getting, hit by my light riflemen, so I bring in my tanks and deal with them. Here, the Tiger, this is the long-range AAs. I can deal with helicopters, long-range IRAA, like the Chaparral. But here, once your helicopter is getting shot at by a missile, it's time to run away with it. You're almost never going to win, unless it's, particularly against AA you can't see. This Nighthawk, I'm just bringing in because I didn't think there was a lot of AA. I get the bombs off, but good, powerful AA takes it down. And that's a big loss. It's 150 points. Over here, I really just unloaded my stuff, got things into the forest, and waited. And was very focused on defense. So then, after the initial engagements, there's definitely a quiet spot. This is good, a decent push from Rob. Don't push your ATGMs forward from this position. They already have a good line of fire. You know that there's infantry in this town, so secure the town with the infantry, and then push up. Additionally, pushing your APCs forward like this, you just lose them. It's better to have your infantry start drawing fire and leave your APCs out of RPG range, because the AT4 has 700 meter max range against ground, and those APCs, they had, I think, Brownings on them, which has 10,050 meters. So once infantry is revealed by shooting at your infantry, then you can have your APCs shoot at them from safety. But you see, your ATGM killed my tank right here. You don't need to move it forward. These guys aren't going to contribute that much to an infantry fight, and you don't want to risk them. So here on this side, I think Baker was pretty passive overall. This M1A2, it's sort of positioned good to defend this open space, but you don't necessarily need a 180 point tank to do that. You can have your mexes do that. So and it's also entirely unsupported by recon, by infantry. When you're playing with a super heavy tank, it should be the focal point of your force. So, and if you look at my side, this is pretty common tactically for defending Delta. Just put a lot of stuff on the end because it's easy to defend with its towns and such, and the forests. But then because this is a big open space, it's hard to attack across. So it's easier. Generally, people will just put recon units, which I have, and if something's coming, bring in air power. But if you had attacked across here with your tanks and maybe some IFVs and your AAA, particularly right now, I would not have been able to handle that easily. This is a so fire computer reset. It's like the best crit to get on a tank, because it makes it so that you have your maximum accuracy is 5%. So I didn't know this immediately. So even though I killed one of these tanks, if you see this crit, if I see this crit with the M1A1, I should be just retreating, reversing as quickly as possible. And if you see that crit on a tank, even if it's a superior tank, like this is nearly twice the cost of this tank, but it can't hit anything. So the Leopard should be running down this Abrams, or at least forcing me to retreat it. And given that I'm controlling all this stuff, that should be good. Bringing in a 160 point plane to attack helicopters is pretty risky. I mean, they don't have AA support right now, but a safer thing would have been able to bring, like, just move your ADATs around to get line of sight, or your Centurion. Because if I had brought my own AA, that would have been a problem. So here, this was just, I was just probing with my Bradleys because I didn't encounter any resistance. And I was hoping to get some light riflemen here and just cut off reinforcements to Charlie. Because after I killed all this stuff here, I was sort of expecting this to be empty. Unfortunately, the Martyr 2 is really good and kills one of these helicopters before it even lands. And this also is a hard place for me, from my side, to control and reinforce, because it's just so far from my spawn zone, and you have to cross this open area. But here, yeah, again here, you should have, you need infantry to clear this out. Infantry and fire support. Down this way, this is handy. Again, your ATGM is doing work here because it's killing fire support. I was trying to push up infantry into this forest because I thought you only had a tank there. Shooting artillery at infantry is generally a good idea because they're soft targets, but you'd be better off, rather than trying to like hit the moving infantry, just shell the static targets in the town, because it's an easier shot. I bring in Raven to kill the automagic, but IHawk, it's seed proof, so keeps it safe. Sort of a game sense thing for Rob here. You just killed a lot of my stuff, and you could see that my infantry was pretty beat. So yeah, moving the FSK forward and attacking is good. Would be a good thing. Because you could probably FSK plus, like, even just plus these transports, could definitely take out both these guys. And I was pretty panicked because, as you can see, I don't have that much right now. So I'm bringing up fast infantry, I'm bringing up another tank. I brought up helicopters just because I was afraid that you might heal a rush. This is a good recognition, Baker, of this is a problem. And Panzer Grenadiers and Martyr 2s is a great way to solve this problem, because I don't have any heavy tanks and stuff. The Martyr 2s in close range, which this will be, because of the trees and stuff, beat Bradleys every time. And then you have good infantry and fire support for them. One of the things that Baker was doing consistently well throughout the game was these big group air raids. So you have the fighter, escort, seed escort, and the bomber. Which is just good for in group. Like, I didn't have any radar over there, but it's a good way to just, like, big groups of airplanes are safer, generally speaking. And that was actually pretty effective. I think you killed 2 of my riflemen, light riflemen, hurt the Rangers, didn't lose any planes. I brought these mortars up primarily for smoke purpose, so I was trying to make it safe for this pack of riflemen to move into this woods by just smoking off particularly your tanks. And this is generally a decent retake. Really needed your martyrs over here to handle my Bradley, because just charging at them with infantry isn't gonna work. But yeah, the helicopter fire support, Ranger spotting infantry, Martyr shooting at infantry. This is good. I transitioned this into a full-on trying to attack the town. This is bad on me. 2 tanks beating 1 in a closer range engagement. The smoke is really, see how the smoke is really, it's gonna help me get right up to this town, because you can't see it. Unfortunately, I discover that there's a lot of dudes here. And also see how, in addition to using the smoke to cover my advance, I also use the smoke to block the line of sight of your fire support vehicles. It doesn't really matter because you have commandos and I just have regular dudes. But because I smoked off your vehicles, this tank had to come forward and it got RPG'd. So that's a way to, like, if I hadn't used smoke, like, my riflemen wouldn't have even made it into the town. And this is a good move of, this is a point where, I feel like you should feel like you killed a bunch of stuff and you have advantage and you can push into the town. So, rocket artillery, this is good targeting. You killed my CV here. I did manage to get and a supply truck. I did manage to get my Patriot out of the way. Here, I haven't encountered resistance over here in a while, so I brought some Marines up, and I'm going to push through these woods and then occupy this town if possible. This is sort of not ideal, because you could have stuff out here that I can't see to fire support, and I don't have my own tank or APCs up to help. I believe I brought an M1A2 up here and it died like immediately to your ATGMs, which made me very sad. All right. What did Baker ping? Oh, pinging target for rocket artillery. That's good team stuff. I also think, yeah, you can see my M1A2. So yeah, it's an excellent thing to rocket artillery. One barrage probably isn't gonna kill it, but it will at least annoy me. So that's good. All right, so the rocket artillery. So you've brought out to rearm it a supply truck, which costs 30 points to rearm it. And when you could have driven it up to your fob, had it refilled, and then driven it somewhere else. Because, and that just saves you points. You can also put it next to your fob. I think I suspect you can probably moved it for minimum range. But this just saves you points, and it's easier to move the rocket, than to manage a supply truck. Here, I think you bring up this command for Bravo, which was pretty bold. Considering you had such a small toehold on it. This is a great move by Rob to flank my tanks. Killed another M1A2 because I was pushing forward here. I was showing my sides. This is also just a bad push by me. Like, actually, honestly terrible, because I'm not leading with infantry. I have, like, no recon, no AA. It's just overall a terrible idea, and I get punished for it, between the infantry sort of pitting me and this tank coming over and getting flank shots on me. I believe that I don't quite know what you were intending to do with this plane, Baker. Maybe attack these helicopters, but again, these aren't worth your, like, attacking with your 160 point F-16. Here, the reason why I put the smoke here is I was trying to cover my retreating M1A1, but I didn't get the angle right, and it's also a good move to move this away. This is also, I don't know how you saw this, but I was convinced there was recon here, because this Amos is bracketing my mortars with shots, and I don't know how you randomly guessed that. This is a decent, I don't remember if I get, I get very lucky here and see the rockets coming, and I sort of guessed it was coming for this stuff, and I managed to pull it out of the blast zone. I think only my scout got a little tickled. But this is still, that was a good targeting of the Mars in principle. Here, because I just see the rifleman and there's not fire support, I just bring up my LAVs. I keep my tanks hidden because I don't think there's anything warranting revealing them, and I'm afraid of AT planes. Here, I hadn't seen a problem with AA, so I bring my Blackhawks up to use their miniguns. I also bring the DAP up to use its guns, which is pretty risky. So yeah, you see how you're with the rocket artillery, you're having to drive the truck back to refill it anyways, when you could just drive it back here fill up and drive back in like a similar amount of time. Also, this is an excellent CV placement, bigger, because I feel like most people are gonna put it here, so this is pretty sneaky. Bring the aids up, deals with this problem. So I'd say the reason why this attack isn't quite working is you don't have the, and it's partly because light riflemen are great, and like as they're here, their dragons are able to kill off your, kill or drive off a lot of your fire support. But I would say a lot of the like, you simply don't have the weight of infantry compared to mine. Because, like, I'm bringing in light riflemen who are 20 points in Blackhawks, who are, so that's 45 points a pop. And yeah, they get there much faster, but on your deck you have the rifleman 90 with in 5-point boxes that are 20 points total. So you should have, you should be bringing in like double my numbers of infantry, or be bringing in the infantry, light riflemen, and Bradleys, which is still cheaper than light riflemen and Blackhawks. In addition to having more infantry, like the same or more infantry than me, have more useful IFVs. And if you had stacked like IFVs and tanks and a whole bunch of infantry in this town, coupled it with one of your bombing runs as you come out of the woods, it would have been pretty hard for me to keep hold of this town. Or at the very least, I would have had to really start using my 2 tanks. This is a decent push in that you're pressing the advantage, and also just FSK rock. But you Rob, also should have more infantry to back this up. Here, infantry, having some more infantry and having some decent fire support, it's really hard for you to push against this. And this helicopter is much too close to this. You could have had it back here and fired the rockets, and it would have been totally safe for my AA. This, like, moving up this is kind of dangerous, but it does pay off in that you can kill my Bradleys, and that really is a problem. You now have, so now that you've taken this town and you're tenuously holding it, you should be getting just bodies in here. I know you have like the Gunarmen who are like pretty cheap, and that's like the ideal thing to fill this town with, at least for now. You can have your more expensive infantry and your fire support in reserve. I would say this is a fairly poor, targeting of Mars. The only thing you saw here were LAVs, which are, they're vulnerable to cluster rockets, but they're only 20 points, and like a volley of Mars fire is expensive, supply-wise. You definitely get your tanks up, like, just in time for this. Here, you guys definitely got lucky. I was just charging a helicopter forward to see if I could bump into something, and there happened to be a gun AA coming out. here I was trying to keep my APCs in range of the town, but out of range of Eric's launchers, so that they could fire the grenade launchers in. And here, yeah, you're just getting infantry into the town. This goes poorly. I definitely evac'd my deagle, used my deagle poorly, but it got, because it didn't drop its bombs. Direct targeting rather than ground targeting. So they're just bombing for the sake of it, because I knew we had infantry in there. But yeah, so this is also why having infantry sort of in reserve helps out, so that if you do get bombed, you can pull these wounded units back and maybe heal them with resupply and get fresh infantry into the town. So you're bringing in a Hornet. I bet you probably knew I had tanks over here. But this is this is actually very unlucky Hornet. The Patriot gets it. And you didn't really have a great, like, the only things you could see here were the LAVs, which are, again, are 20 points compared to Hornet's 160, so they're not a great target for the Hornet. General ECR, I think you trade with the Patriot, which is not ideal, but decent. I think killing Patriots is sort of its own special subset, but I think the way to do it is to have a sort of sacrificial lamb bomber or other ground attack airplane go in first, ideally with a good target, and hope that it survives the Patriot, and have your seed plane follow up so that the Patriot is shooting at something other than your seed plane, and then also the weapons will be on and you can take it out in a more safe manner. Here I think I could see your Hawk, and I could see it's moving, and it can't fire on the move. Or no, I was still bombing. I was still bombing the town, and I was very lucky to get away. Here, once you see, so when you bring in seed planes, it's much easier for you to see AA, and you sort of get a set or radar-based AA. So when you're coming in with this sort of sight picture on your seed planes, and and you know that there's AA here because you've seen like missiles or lost planes or whatever, and you're not seeing anything at this point, you should probably just be turning, like telling your plane to turn away or evacing it, because you're not seeing anything. Which I think you do. So yeah, there's good management, because it's just the Shap here. And this was incredibly fortuitous, because the Shap shot, you called the target, you had the Mars ready, and AA is great target for cluster rockets, because if you look at the Shap, it is super unarmored and very expensive. And you end up calling the wrong forest that it's hidden in. But I ended up doing this thing where I was like, I saw these shells coming in. I was sort of confused about that. I thought, once these rockets start firing, I thought, oh, they spotted my AA, or they marked where it is, and I move over to where it's actually getting shot at. So that ends up being a fortuitous mistake. Yeah, but just overflying your prowler like that and you don't see anything is bad. So here I actually make the mistake of moving into where the rockets are going. I think I start to turn around and kaboom, kaboom. I did this, I marked where the rockets were coming from. Just from the, I can't see your units, but I marked it like quite precisely just from the rocket trails. And that's what I'm bringing the Nighthawk in for. And I'm going up, around, and I'm going to drop the bombs on this. And the Nighthawk is particularly suited for this job because it has the exceptional stealth. So it is very hard for it to be seen, unless you have like airplanes, unless there's an air superiority fighter actively circling. It is very hard to see these before they drop their bombs. So I'm coming in. You see it right as it's going. Very hard to react to it. Dead. So the way to avoid this is, rather than keeping your rocket artillery in the same place consistently, what you should do, and using trucks to supply it, what you should be doing is move your artillery to a rocket artillery to a firing position, shoot it. After, you can queue up orders, and one of the things you can do is you can shoot your rocket artillery and then queue a move order like back to the fob, so that once it's done shooting, it will immediately pack up and go, which really, really protects it well from counter battery fire and Nighthawks and stuff. So yeah, and queue up a move order back to the fob, goes back to the fob, it resupplies, and then you move it somewhere else and shoot. And never shoot from the same place twice. You should also sort of be doing it with mortars and regular artillery. Sometimes with them, because they fire faster and their firing it's less obvious where the unit is when they fire. You can get away with 2 or 3 salvos, but you should be doing moving them around because it prevents them from getting counter batteried. So here, this is a good play from Rob. Like, you fully reinforce the town. You're moving towards places. You're bringing up recon. You're moving towards places where you're moving forward when you're not encountering resistance. So this is like good, and you're spreading my front line out. So instead of just having to defend like this point, I have to defend all this way. Scouting with bodies is a tactic that people use. I don't prefer it. I think is particularly in destruction. I think it's a waste of points, but you can with like cheap things. It's fine. I don't know if this was a not paying attention to what bomber you're using, but the tank would have revealed itself, and you used iron bombs. So the tank is panicked, but not that hurt. And it's risky just because it's close to my air spawn. So here I see this rocket shooting. And then, again, I'm very close to where it is with my marker. Just trying to see. So, yeah, here's my Nighthawk. Look at how close it had to get in order to be spotted by AA. And I was very unhappy that that was there. I was not expecting that. Probably the smart thing for me to do, knowing that you would push forward, would either have been to fly even further around or to hook the other way. I brought the Raven in because I saw the automatic kill my Nighthawk. Here again, I'm bringing in the D-Eagle because I see your Hawk is moving. So I think it's only going to get one, maybe two shots off. They're probably not both going to hit me, and the bombs will definitely kill it. So, AA definitely needs to be stationary in order to be effective. And that was just me paying attention and getting a bit lucky. Because that second missile could have definitely killed my plane. Or you could have crit it and just one-shot it, and that would have been great. I will say, I feel like you guys were attacking in very obvious ways, in that, so like Baker was always attacking this town, Sean was sort of attacking down this middle road, and Rob was attacking this town, but there were definitely some places that, if you look on the map in my front line, there are places where I have concentrations of forces, just as you do, and then there are places that are open and unexpected, so like this open field to the ridge, this open field to the tree line, going through here and then down is I'm attacking across this field. Like I brought these units in because I saw this recon moving across, and I was like, oh, I have nothing on this side of the town, and we have 2 minutes left in the game. Here, losing this helicopter to my LAV was very much from flying around without lagging recon here. Yeah, so it's winding down. I brought in this Hornet anticipated because I saw the STRV 121, and I thought it might reveal myself if I moved my helicopter forward, so I brought it in anticipation. But I was babysitting this plane the whole time. I didn't realize how much stuff I destroyed in Charlie, or in between Charlie and Alpha, which is like normal in this game. You rarely see that much. And yeah, that was the time limit. So, I hope it was fun. I hope you have learned something in me talking about it when you watch this video. And yeah, I'll probably be doing another one.